Mhm. Good morning, Sandra. Hi, everybody. All right, give me just 1 second here. All right. Okay, so we are in the middle of another lojong by a great Geshe called Geshe Kachawa, and we almost finished the last class, so we're significantly delayed again. I was looking through the course, and I think there might be one day where we can catch up on something. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, we might have, I don't know, 12 classes, 13 classes. It'll just keep going. Dharma just keeps going anyway. It's like everyone thinks, oh, I finished Lam Rim, I did Day Lam, or I did Gift of Liberation. I finished Lam Rim. And you know what the Lam Rim people say? Do it again. They say, keep going. Like Lam Rim is a lifelong practice. And so everything we're doing is, don't think of what you're doing as, I don't know, just because you accomplished a course and finished the homeworks doesn't mean that you shouldn't review it and do it again, because it's not like that. It's not like a linear thing where you go from the beginning and go to the end and, oh, Tim, I finished my 18 courses, can you give me Diamond Way? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe you're ready, maybe you're not, you know. Excuse me. um and we need to keep going until the realizations happen. And it's more like a wave. You get a wave of information, and then the water goes away, and then the wave comes back. And they continually revisit it. You'll see new things. You'll see new You have new insights. So don't think there's some kind of accomplishment. The Buddha himself said there's nothing to attain. So if you think that attaining the 18 courses is some kind of accomplishment, well, it is. First of all. Okay, you did a lot of work, right? You did a lot of study. You know, it is an accomplishment, but it's not an attainment, if that makes sense. You should be happy. Is a Vietnamese translation okay now? Oh, yes, no, no. Okay, so it looks like Koi is talking, but for some reason we can't. Well, I'm not talking to you, Irdevor. You're Spanish. Yeah, so okay, for some reason, yeah, it looks like we're resetting Yukoi. So we're just gonna wait for a second here while we're resetting. Yes. All right. Is the Vietnamese translation better now? Okay, good. Excellent, Koi. Thank you. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Um, so if we go extra classes, don't worry. It's not like it just keeps going, right? And you keep getting more insights into. I'm sorry, if you haven't seen emptiness directly yet, it doesn't matter how many 18 courses you've done or how many Diamond Way courses you've done, how much practice you've done. Okay. you know, but we'll figure it. Uh, doesn't let's see. We're having still having issues with Vietnamese.
No, it's good.
It's good. Okay, cool. Great. All right. So when you're listening, so what is it about listening to a class that's different than say listening to, a university class or listening to, anything that you are studying or anything. If you're just listening to gather information, that's one way to listen. Like, what is this Buddhist thing? What is this Buddhist worldview? What is this worldview in general? Like, let's not even make it Buddhist. Like, what is it? Like, how does one's mind work in it? Like, how do you live in it? Right. That's one way you can gather information. But the other way of listening is is to take what's being said and take it as a message to you or to me. Like, I mean, you're referring to yourself as me. Okay, sorry. You take it as a special message directly made for you. And you're like, well, how does this relate to me right now? Why am I hearing this right now? Why do I have to listen to a teacher who's constantly not finishing classes on time or not getting through all the material, right? If that's something that bothers you. Or as we're listening to Chikawa's advices, don't think it was some guy who wrote it 1,000 years ago. Be like, what does this have to do with me right now? What does it have to do with my life? What does it have to do with the way that I'm thinking or the way that I'm living? And is there some kind of special message in it for me? Like, that's how you should be listening, right? And the way that I take notes is it's more like a personal journal, right? I'm if I'm trying to find, I may, of course, if there's a list of 6 things, I'm making the list of 6 things. But it's also like I'm constantly thinking, how does this apply to me and my life? Because we don't have enough time in this life to just be a passive listener, right? Like, don't waste your time, you know, figure out how it applies and how you're going to make changes if you want to, of course. But I highly doubt that you would be here if you just, I don't know, were a passenger, like a random passenger on a subway, right? You're just stuck on the subway and you're just like, I'm going to go to my next Dharma class, right? Here's the next stop. So take it more like that. Like, how does this apply to me? Because that's how you make change. Like, I don't say a lot I didn't say a lot of these things in the beginning, but this is course 14, right? This is, we're getting quite in depth. Like, you have to be applying it to your life or you'll never, or it just won't go anywhere. Like, and if you haven't been doing that, don't worry, but start, right? It's time to start. That's what Geshe Chikawa is telling us. It's time to start. We don't have time. We don't know how much longer we have. And if you can bring any kind of kindness to the world, even if you only have one day left, what kind of kindness would you bring to the world? You know, that's at least how I think about it. So we, excuse me. Um, I'm not sick, but I'm sick. Got really sick a couple weeks ago, and I can't get rid of the cough. So maybe let's study some Dharma to get rid of it. Okay, so here's the end of the last class. And let's have Heidi. Can you read this for everybody?
See the deception as being for bodies. Emptiness is the matchless protector.
Okay, thank you. So, what is Geshe Chikawa telling us right here? Okay, so first thing is let's just talk about the word deception. And this, you've heard this over and over and over again, and you have to keep hearing it over and over again. And that really is that the deception that's going on constantly is how we think things are out there by themselves. And the deception is that our mind creates this, that we think things have some existent self standing nature of its own, like the house outside the window there looks pretty strongly built, right? Like that house was built strongly and it's there by itself, right? It's sitting on the little hill over there. Yes, there's a house on the hill over there, right? But the house is not the house from its own side, right? It can't be the house. Like, do the crows that fly around in the morning looking for food look at it and go, oh, that's the house on the hill? They're like, can't wait to fly over there. No, that's not what they do. That's not what they're saying, right? They don't have that conversation in their head. I mean, I don't think they do, right? But the crow sees something. The crow goes, oh, look at that safe place to land, right? And so the deception is created by our own mind. And we don't say that very much. But think about that. You're the one who's seeing it come from its own side. Your mind is creating that. That's cool. Like, yeah, we can say the pen's coming from you, but the deception that you see it that way is coming from you too. So that's a nice first little thing that he's talking about here. And then he says, see the deception as being four bodies. What does he mean by this? Like, what are the four bodies? Right. And he's referring specifically to the four bodies of a Buddha. And you can split it up into three or four, depending how you do it. But we're going to talk about four bodies today. And so first of all, the Buddha has like we'll call it like a Sambhogakaya, let's call it the celebratory body, the paradise body, the body in total perfection, right? The body that you get that's in some kind of paradise. And then there's the Nirmanakaya, it's like the Buddha's hanging out in their paradise. Like you're all Buddhas, you're all hanging out, and you're like, really no one can see us. It's kind of lonely here. It's kind of stupid that we're just hanging out here when there's all these suffering beings everywhere else. It's not a, it's not like a dialogue they're having, like, around the table, and then they decide, oh, well, we should go do something else, right? It's a spontaneous thought. It's their bodhicitta. But the idea is that the Sambhogakaya is like chilling out, total paradise, and then is like, well, wait, but no one can see me. right? And then they have this other capacity to then emanate, right? Send out their nirmanakayas to help people, normal people. They come to us in quote normal ways to to then help us, right? We can't see their paradise body. We wouldn't be able to handle it if we saw it. Probably we probably wouldn't even know what it was. Okay. The third body is the what are we calling it in this case? I'm sorry. Let me get my notes up. Maybe you guys know it faster than I do. Oh, it's not in my notes. Emanation body and oh, it's not listed. That's why. Just the omniscience of the Buddha's mind is the third body. That's why I didn't write it down. I think there's another name for it. It's called the something kaya. Swabhava kaya. Thank you, Sandra. Good job. Right. It's the Swabhava kaya. Okay. Don't worry about the words. Think about three things. Think about the mind, which has the perfect mind of a Buddha, their omniscient mind. They got their like sexy body that stays in paradise. And translators do not say the word interesting. Sexy doesn't mean interesting. Janet. Okay. They have their excellent, perfect paradise body. Okay. And then they send out bodies of emanation, bodies of compassion that help others. And then the fourth body is called the Dharmakaya, which is the emptiness of all of them. Each of those three things have emptiness. All right. So the idea of this is see the deception as the four bodies. What this means is, let's go back. Can you guys see it? See the deception as the four bodies. Understand that those bodies of a Buddha have emptiness, which means that your mind and body also has emptiness too, which means you can be that as well. Meaning that your mind, your body, because it has emptiness, could become the body of a perfected being. I I want to say one quick thing. I saw something, you know, Instagram oftentimes is a wasteland of useless information and death scrolling, but sometimes Instagram pops up really good secret messages. And one of the messages I saw this morning was about perfection and perfectionism, right? And people who tend to have perfectionism, this guy, right? It's a kind of affliction, right? Because if you are quote perfect, people cannot criticize you, right? And and it kind of hit me really, strongly. I was like, again, it was like a lot. It was like listening to Dharma. I was like, oh, that's one of my deep afflictions is I'm afraid to be criticized. And so, and I've known this for a long time. So I've gone through this process of unwinding perfection, what I believe is perfection, right? And and so as practitioners, we have these words which I don't really like. We have the perfection of giving, the perfection of morality, the perfection of patience and joyful effort and meditation, and then we have these words like perfected being, like a Buddha, right? We have these achievements we're pushing ourselves towards. But it can be such an affliction, right? My meditation sucks. My patience sucks. My 6 times a day book. Well, look at all those things that I'm doing that aren't cool, right? I'm breaking my commitments. I'm not a perfected being yet. I'm not a Buddha. I could be. I have an emptiness, but I have all this other unperfected blah blah way, right? So what I'm trying to say is like, how do we get comfortable in the imperfection so that we can actually practice and be okay with, yeah, I got upset today. Yes, I my meditation was substandard. If you even meditated at all, right? Oh, I'm not a Buddha yet. I'm not kind enough yet. How am I ever going to emanate? How am I ever going to take care of all these people? Blah, 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 blah. Listen to your internal dialogue, convince you not to do anything. Or your perfectionism is so strong that you actually don't do anything. Or you're avoiding criticism of other people, that you isolate yourself until you're perfect, you know. So we have to kind of break through that habit and see that what we're doing is like ironing the t-shirt. Like, you know, you still put on your clothes if like I mean, at least I do. If my clothes are not ironed, I still put them on. Like I don't walk around, I don't go to Peachtree Cafe naked and everyone's like, "Why are you naked, Tim?" Well, my clothes weren't ironed today, so sorry. They're not perfect, right? Ah, Vivi's partner looks like going to work or something. Hi. Have a good day. That was cute. You know, like, no, you put on the wrinkly clothes. You might be a little embarrassed that your shirt's wrinkled, right? But you still put it on, right? I mean, most of us do, except if you're 4 years old and you're Z's child, right? But and then you don't really lose a lot of you don't lose a lot of confidence, or you know the shame of having wrinkly clothes does not really affect your day to day, right? How many people judge others because they have wrinkly clothes? Mm-hmm. I have. I can't believe they came to this meeting wrinkly, right? They should have spent the time ironing, right? Then you're just like, you know, judging somebody's wrinkly clothes is ridiculous in the long run, right? And it's the same thing of judging other people's Dharma practice, right? Don't judge other people's Dharma practice. Come on. Like everyone's working just as hard as you are. And it's all kind of, we're already wrinkled. We're trying to unwrinkle. Okay. You can't unwrinkle without the iron, and I'm terrible at ironing. I'll just admit it, and then you just step by step learn how to iron your clothes. So I like to kind of strike this word perfection from our vocabulary because it can become an affliction. Yes, it's good to know where it's going. But the word that actually is in the Tibetan is a perfectionizer. It's a thing that makes you perfect. The process of perfectionizing, the process of becoming perfected, but don't get lost in your own affliction around it. So that's the first part, and right. And so that the emptiness of those of your own mind and body is what makes it possible that Buddha nature, the Sangye Rik, is the thing that can flop you over into something that's perfectionized. Okay, sorry, translators. And so when it says emptiness is the matchless protector, what we're saying is that emptiness is your real protection. You know, paintings of Buddhas can't help you. Your books can't help you from their own side. Okay. Whatever good or bad comes to you is forced upon you by your mind, forced upon you by your past karma. You know, and if you understood that really, then you would be motivated to do the things to change it. Like to keep those commitments, those bodhisattva commitments, or your pratimoksha commitments, or your diamond way commitments, not because it's some sort of externalized, you know, authoritarian dictatorship thing that came to you that says you have to be like this. That's not what it is. Your understanding motivates you to say, look, I need to plant the seeds to understand how this all works, to be able to unwrinkle my clothes. And and a lot of those seeds that get planted act in combination to unwrinkle things very quickly without a lot of effort. You don't have to try really hard. One day you'll sit in meditation and that wrinkle will go away in your channel. And then the prana might go into the central channel. And then you don't do anything. It just does itself, right? The experience of yourself changes. You know. So when things happen to us, good or bad, we should be like emptiness, right? Just a t-shirt, right? Get a tattoo. If anyone gets a tattoo on their like forearm, right? you know, Emptiness, something like that, right? And that's what can protect us and fix us as well. All right, yay. That was the end of class, whatever number that was, 5. 4. Right. So then Geshe Chikawa goes on to talk about a thing that's called the 5 powers, which is seriously annoying. Right? How many how many powers do we normally have? 4. Right? 4 powers. 4 steps, 4 powers, 4 laws of karma. 4 what's the other 4? The way the seeds ripen, the 4 ripenings, is that what we call them? The 4 flowers, thank you. And sometimes there's a 5th set called the 4 priorities. All right. There's all these 4s, right? One of them is called the 4 powers, same word in Tibet. And then Geshe Chikawa goes, oh, yeah, by the way, there's actually 5. Now there's 5 powers. Okay. It's completely unrelated. I mean, it's completely related, but it's this different set of things. Okay. He has these things called the 5 powers. And what is he talking about? And he's basically saying there's five in his world of Lojong, there are five primary practices for us to do every single day. So if we were to, I learned this word in Tibetan the other day. It means condensed, like you condense it into one. We will talk about it in the translation class in the next hour because it's in that text where you take all the practices together and you condense them, right? You've learned a whole bunch of things. Then how do you make them efficient? It is impossible to do everything you learn in a Dharma class every single day. In a normal life, all the commitments that one has in Diamond Way, it is impossible to do all the things, right? You're supposed to do offerings X number of times a day. You're supposed to do refuge X number of times a day. You're supposed to give the Dharma X number of times a day. Like there's all these, like if you did every single one of them and then you reviewed your vows 6 times a day, all of them, and then checked all of them. I mean, maybe that's the point. Then you wouldn't be doing anything bad. You would be checking your vows all the time, maybe. But how do we condense them into a normal life? Like how do we use them? And that's my main goal in teaching is how do we give little nuggets of wisdom that people can use right away? And then how can you use it well? And then apply it to the two husbands in the kitchen or apply it to the screaming boss or apply it to the perfect relationship you want. So there's two ways that we're looking at this. So he gives us the five powers and he actually gives us 10 powers, which is annoying. Not really. There's one way to look at the five powers during your day-to-day life. And then there's one way to look at the five powers as you're approaching death. So they're very deeply interrelated. And many of us have probably heard this word before. It's called POA, which everybody wants to know about this practice. How do you transfer your consciousness at the time of death? The mystical POA practices of Buddhism. Um, we're going to be learning about this practice where many of the POA practices are part of the secret teachings. But this is primarily an open teaching, which really is the preparation for any of those other POA practices to work at all, if they work, if you have the seeds to make them work. Okay. But everyone's always interested. How do I move to the next life? How do I like we've heard stories of like beings who can, at the time of death, they've transferred their consciousness to, you know, a being who has just passed or something like that. Right. They did it in the movie Avatar, by the way. That was awesome. Right. And if you understand emptiness well enough, sure, that can be done. Um, but if you understand these practices really well, you don't even have to think about doing POA, by the way. So we'll talk about that in about 10, 15 courses. So the first practice of the five powers, it's called the projecting power. And what it means is make a resolution for the future. So what this means, is So the word, it means penpa kito, like penjikile. You probably have heard it. Projecting karma, the karma that projects your next life. The 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 projecting power, right? So when you first wake up in the morning, you make a decision. Like, so this is a morning practice. First thing you do when you wake up, you make a decision and you decide for today, or all day today, tomorrow, next month, the next year, your rest of your life. You're going to use today very well. You're not going to continually make the mistake of only taking care of your problems. And then you start making the commitment to be the most generous person, to focus on other needs, other people's needs first, while you're still doing the good night book club. You're sleeping 8 hours, you're eating well, you're doing your exercises, you're doing your own practices, you're doing your meditation and your yoga. All of those things can be done for other people, by the way, with the right motivation. And if you continue to do this kind of work, your body will become healthier and healthier. Yes, you'll have blips, right? But overall, you'll get healthier and healthier. You'll start feeling younger. Your mind gets clearer. You get more intelligent. You know, so it's kind of like looking around for what others need versus focusing on what you need. So really waking up and trying to decide, I'm going to destroy the own enemy in my own mind, my own enemy of self-cherishing. And this is what will get you to the enlightened realm. Oops, sorry. Let me move this off the screen. All right, that's the first one. Second one, this is called Gompa. Gompa, which is the same word for, it means accustoming yourself, which is similar to the word for meditation. Is that throughout your day? So here's this guy walking through probably New York. All right. And anytime you're walking or you're standing or you're sitting or sleeping, you're thinking of ways to accustom yourself to that wish for enlightenment. Mm-hmm. I really should have a second monitor when I'm teaching. It's a lot easier. Hold on, my notes keep falling off the screen. I just want to make sure I got it right. Okay. So the idea here is not only do you accustom yourself to the wish for bodhicitta, the wish for total enlightenment, which is your bodhicitta, is that think about anytime you make a transition in your life. So I get up from this chair, right? I'm going to go fill up my water, right? I get up. As I'm getting up out of the chair, I bring this power of habituation to mind. I get used to thinking of other people first. Like anytime that I lay down or I walk somewhere or I get in my car, like to get yourself accustomed to this idea that I should be thinking about other people. Why is this? A lot of people ask me, it's like, Tim, if I only think of other people, how will I take care of myself? Of course, I've already addressed this, but I'm going to say it a different way. You have such deep habituated patterns of taking care of yourself first that thinking about other people, the number of times you sit down and stand up during the day is such a small amount of thoughts of other people compared to the number of thoughts about yourself. Even if you, that's a bad example. That's disgusting, Tim. That's just too much. Just think about the number of times that you sit down and stand up in a day. 15? I don't know, whatever that number is. For 15, seconds during the day, you think of other people. Because what'll happen is like, oh, let me think of other people. I'll get up and I'll be like, oh, I'm getting myself water. And I'll think about getting myself water. And I'll think about hydrating myself. Right. I thought about someone for what, 1 millisecond. So come on. Don't, don't, don't disqualify yourself from enlightenment by saying, oh my God, I'm going to be a martyr and I'm never going to take care of myself. I'm only going to take care of other people. Come on. You're already taking care of yourself. This is just habituating yourself to a different mindset. Now, I didn't say that there are times when we overcommit to other people, right? But if you have joyful effort and you understand where things are coming from, you don't have that experience of burnout that happens. You know, but there are times when we just do too much, right? There's times when it's just overwhelming. Like being a parent can be overwhelming because you're constantly taking care of a child. They don't stop. They never stop. They always have needs, right? And especially when children are younger, a lot of the needs of the parents do have to take a side, go to the side. There's an expression, be put to the side. And that can be very difficult for some people because then the person that they were previously kind of has to go away to be able to care for that child. And it can be exhausting and overwhelming, and you can hurt yourself too, and it can be too much for you, right? Even if you try to have joyful effort, right? So it's like, how do we still check in with this, right? How do you check in with your body, your mind, your level of capacity, right? Because we do need that rest. We do, like, we still got wrinkles, got it, like we try, and then it gets difficult, right? Anyone who's been a parent knows it's probably the most trying time of your life. Yes. you know and it can be very rewarding as well, but it's like it's a very difficult thing, and being a bodhisattva can be a very trying thing because you are holding on to something. You're holding on to something about yourself, right? And it's much deeper than anything else we've tried to do. I'm not very qualified at it, but I think we should. I mean, meaning I don't have a lot of direct experience, but I think it would be wonderful to have a class on bodhisattvic self-care, right? As a parent, like for parents, right? I mean, I can give you lots of some, I can give some advices, but my parenting is reserved to my nephews and nieces. And guess what? They get to go away, or I get to go away after a certain period of time, right? I've raised animals, which is not the same, right? And I could talk about it somewhat, but I think it'd be great for us to create. We have a class coming up in Mexico. It's called Bodhisattva Burnout. Like what happens when your bodhisattva activities burn you out, which is key for most people in the Dharma because they push themselves too much. I gotta plant the good seed. Right. And then you work so hard and you don't know how to create boundaries and things like that. Like giving up your self-cherishing mind does not mean don't create a boundary. But I think it'd be really great. Some of you are taking the ACI teacher training, and as we're moving into the five houses, like to think about how could we take this course? How could you take the five powers and turn it into a parenting course? Like listen to everything I'm these five powers and then be like, oh my God, you could create, a workshop after workshop on how to parent based on these five powers. And then how to take care of yourself as a parent. And that's because children are taxing. They're energetically taxing, they're financially taxing, they're emotionally taxing, they're testing you all the time. You're trying to turn them into adults. Imagine what the Buddhas are doing. They're like, God damn it, Tim, how many times do we have to tell you the same thing over and over again? Right? You'll get the lesson eventually, right? It's probably very similar, although they have more patience than I do. Um, Third power. This one's called the carpo sabun. Sabun is seed, carpo is white. So this is the power. This is called the force, the power of your pure white seeds. You know, every irritation in your life is the cause for your aging. This is why I fight against my own irritation. you know, Trying to age slowly, you know. And so, like, the idea here is that we first must collect powerful good seeds, powerful white seeds, right? Good karma, seeds of light, I guess we're going to call it that. Is that we have to find out what are the most powerful things we can do because we don't have time to mess around. You don't have time to spend 10 years to figure out what are the best things to do because 10 years will pass or 20 years will pass. And all of a sudden you're like, I remember my first Dharma class with Geshe Michael in Phoenix 15 years ago. Well, actually, it was in Detroit 15 and a half years ago. But I'm like, 15 years doesn't feel that long ago. Doesn't feel very long at all. So we don't have time to waste. What are those powerful seeds, right? One is maybe to take care of a teacher who's teaching these things, meaning to serve. Don't take care of them like they don't I don't need my clothes ironed. I got plenty. I got my own iron, which I never use, but I don't need my clothes ironed, right? People ask me, well, what can I do for you, Tim? Volunteer for ACI, volunteer for the five houses. Like, because teaching the Dharma, serving the Dharma, getting those programs out, reaching people, those are good seeds, incredibly good seeds. And then you wrap it up with, oh, well, that's what the teacher wanted. If, whomever your teacher is, I'm just teaching this class. Just because you're here doesn't mean you have to be my student or I'm your teacher. That's not how it works. Like there's lots of classes I go to lots of classes and I learn from lots of different teachers, and you should learn from lots of different teachers. But who's that person that you're like, this is the person that I'm going to plant the seeds with? Okay. So the second part of this one is, excuse me, how do you wipe out all of the bad seeds? Like, how do you wipe out all the bad karmas you've planted and get them out of your system? Mainly this is done by your book practice. And what this does is it increases the power of your wish. All right. The fourth one is called the power of destruction. The, it's called like the ripping out power. And this game here, I don't know if you've been to a carnival or if you have them, it's called whack-a-mole, right? And like there's like those little circles. And when they pop up, right? You have that little thing in your hand and then you hit the head, right? You hit the head of the mole, right? And they pop up in different orders and different speeds. And you bam, 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 right? This is what you should be like all day long. Okay. You should have a little thing in your hand, metaphorically. And any time a thought comes up to get only what you want, hit it in the head, bam, right? No, bam, right? And get back down there. Okay. Destroy that thought immediately, right? Notice the language. Okay. When you focus on getting only what you want, for you to only get it. Okay. What if I want something? Do I hit myself in the head and be like, no, Tim, don't want that. Don't want that. Want that. Like, you're such a bad person for wanting that. No, 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 no. Is that you go, okay, well, to get that, I have to help other people first. So instead of trying to help myself, I help somebody else first. Bam. And that's when you hit that in the head. Help somebody else get what they want. I like to play the game of making things general. And it's good to be specific. But I like to, if I have a particular desire or want or need, right? I could try to find someone else who has the same exact problem. And that's a good way of doing it. Like you're not alone. By the way, you're not alone. Even the weirdest desire you have, you're not the only one. I'm sorry. Somebody else had it before you. You're not the only one. So go to a place where those people are if you want to help them. But I also like to just make it a general practice of helping people get what they want generally. So like I'm looking at Janet right now. So if Janet shows up and I'm like, If I'm trying to figure out what problem do I have or what want do I have, and I look in Janet and I'm like, does she have that? And I'm trying to find that problem, right? Or I could just look at Janet and say, what does Janet want? What does Janet need? And then I give Janet what she needs and wants. And the seed I'm planting is, I think, very, very powerful. So when I want something, that maybe it just automatically shows up. Or if I need something, it just shows up. I don't have to spend too much time or effort on it. Okay. So it's like I'm suggesting do both. Don't do one or the other. But you can make your 4-step seed planting exercise an all day thing. Like, yeah, okay, I have this one particular weird need or want. Okay. This is why the internet's amazing. One of the reasons the internet's amazing, not all of them. And there's lots of bad things. But there are people out there that want the same thing that you do. Promise. Just type it into Google, you'll find it. Okay. Go into your home, shut the curtains, and type it into Google. You'll find it. Okay. Just be ethical about it. That's all I'm asking. It's not that hard to find others who want the same thing that you do. I'm using weird examples, but like, and it's not weird, but the point is that you don't have to go very far to find other people in need. And our basic needs, everyone has them. The basic emotional needs, the needs for comfort, the needs for safety, like the need for human touch and contact, right? All of those things are basic human needs, right? I bet you if I just walk to any of these homes, there's probably people sitting in it being like, I'm so lonely. No one ever comes to visit me. So if I'm sitting here on my mountaintop, right? And I'm like, I'm so lonely up here. Just go to one of those houses, Tim. I'm sure. Knock on the door. Be like, hey, do you need a friend? I'm not creepy. It's not creepy that I showed up. Want to go get a coffee at Peachtree Cafe? I have an old lady down the street. She calls me to pick her up like once a week. Right? She's lonely. She's really friendly. She's really fun too. You see. So so when you have that thought, oh, I'm so lonely, or I have this desire or need, you know, smack it in the head like the game, and then go find someone else who needs something. What if I can't find someone right away? Great. Just go help them with something they need. Go fix Venerable Phil's bathroom sink because it's calcified and the water doesn't come out very well. Right? How does that relate to my loneliness? I don't know. See, like, just go help someone if they need something and carry around the little stick. All right, next one. Finally, this is called the Munlam. Right before you go to bed, make a prayer. All right. There's a reason why Geshe called it coffee meditation. The reason he said do it at night. By the way, if you're having difficulty sleeping, if you can force your mind into this, you will fall right back asleep. And I thank the Dharma gods that it happened to me twice last night so I could teach it today. I woke up twice. I had some anxiety. I couldn't fall back asleep. And I was just like, wait, Tim, did you not study the class you're teaching in 2 hours or 3 hours? Go make a prayer, right? May this anxiety, may, you know, may this be the last time this anxiety has to appear in this world. Maybe I'm burning up everyone else's anxiety. May this serve as a cause for that. May the things I do serve to be a cause for enlightenment. May the normal things I do help other people reach enlightenment. Maybe the ultimate way that I'm doing this will help me see the direct perception of emptiness or have the direct perception of emptiness. Because after you have that experience, you will be fearless. Chikme, you will be fearless. You will confirm everything that we've ever been taught. You'll know how you're going to reach enlightenment. You'll know when it happens. Wouldn't it be great to be so fearless that you never wake up in the middle of the night with any anxiety? Because you just know how to create the things that are necessary. Okay. So these 5 powers, right? Let's review. First one, wake up and make a prayer that you will do all the things that you're going to, excuse me, you're going to do all the things that are going to help you reach total enlightenment. Right? You will help other people get what they want. Look how happy she is. She's like, I'm going to get up, right? I'm going to get myself out of bed. Yay. Right? And I'm going to do these things today. I'm going to do these things tomorrow. I'm going to do these things for the rest of my life. I will stop looking out for just myself and I will help other people. 2, throughout the day, you're going to accustom your mind to this. How? Every time you stand up, every time you sit down, every time you get in the car or get on the subway, every time you go to the bathroom, every time you get out of the bathroom, right? Transition points, right? Remind yourself who that main enemy is and start thinking about what other people want and worrying less about what you want. Thirdly, amassing a lot of great good seeds and purifying the bad ones. Learn how to plant the best seeds. When you become a bodhisattva, the problem is trying to figure out what the best seed is to plant because there's so many opportunities. Well, should I plant this good seed or this good seed? Don't diamond deal me. All right. But, which is the most powerful one? What I like to do when I'm having a feeling low or feeling a little crappy, I like to go and translate. Why? Because it's the 500-year plan, right? If I translate something that then lives for 500, 1,000 years, and somebody's using it over the next 1,000 years, I get the good seeds of that, right? I'm thinking of people 500 years from now. That will get you out of your today's misery. Fourth, whack-a-mole. Anytime a thought comes up when you're only think of yourself, bam, hit it in the head and flip it to other people. And the flip is, I want this, somebody else might want it too. Let me go help them. Okay. It's not denying your desires and wants. This is not a, a chastity belt, right? Like a metaphorical chastity belt where you're denying yourself all of your desires and wants and needs. It's not that at all. Like you're not locking up your desires. You're flipping it around. You're then looking for who else has that, who else wants that, right? As long as you're being ethical, right, about it, go help somebody else. And you are by helping somebody else. And then the fifth one is at night, make a prayer, close your eyes, review all of your good efforts from today, especially the things you did to help other people get what they wanted. And then make that prayer that you want to reach total enlightenment. Okay. And have both the normal wish and the ultimate wish come true. Okay. And then when you get to Vajrayana, these practices become even more powerful. So don't tell me I didn't teach you anything about Vajrayana. You already learned it. You just didn't know it. You're learning Diamond Way right here. Just when you get up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, transition points, all of those things, it's all there. It just gets recontextualized. So do this practice, and then Diamond Way practice will be easy for you. And you'll be like, wow, I thought it was this mystical thing. Right, because we've been teaching it to you. Okay, how does this now there's a twist that Geshe Chikawa puts into this. And he says, look, get yourself used to this right now. Get used to doing this, because once you become accustomed to all of these things, then as you're approaching death, you flip it into a transition point. You flip it into um, using it at the time of death. Okay. So he says, what happened? Where's my Zoom? There it is. Let's have someone read this. How about mm, how about Luba? Could you read this line here?
Do you mean me?
Sure.
Okay. In the great way, these same five advices for sending your mind, cherish the act.
Okay. In the great way of the same advices, meaning the same five powers for sending your mind, meaning how do you send your mind onwards? Right? How do you send your mind onwards here? Right? And so this idea here is, as you're dying, how do you transform death into something powerful? How do you transform death into something that you cherish? Right? What does that mean in the sense of how could it serve to be for others? So in that way, it's taking this thing that's normally really scary, um, and then you say, well, look, I have to go through this anyway, and I'm going to go through it. So how do I go through it in a way that could really be for other people? Sorry, I just lost my note here. I wanted to say one more thing about this. And so the first thing here is with cherishing the act, right? Is they say that try to try to die in the way that the Buddha died. So there's all these pictures of the Buddha dying on the right hand side, like laying on his right side, right? And and then thinking about how this will bring good to other people. So you're in this process of yes, you're transforming normal death into something more extraordinary. And this is difficult, right? This is not an easy idea to wrap our minds around. But if we were born, we will have to die. This body was made, it will have to be unmade. So, how do we prepare for that? Because we don't really know when it's going to happen. You know, hopefully it'll be a peaceful event. Maybe you'll be able to be, in a comfortable bed, right? You will be able to think about maybe laying down on your right hand side, like to die like the Buddha did. There's times when that won't be possible. But how do we prepare for all of those moments? So what Geshe Chikawa says is, this is how you really transfer your consciousness. How do you transfer your mind at the time of death? So the way that a bodhisattva dies is higher than any other way. You see. So here are the 5 instructions. All right. Here's how to take that moment, transform it. So 1, you can prevent yourself from going, make an attempt to prevent yourself from going to a lower realm. And then possibly creating some very, very powerful seeds. All right, so here's how we do it. And I didn't make pictures for these because I wanted you to transfer the other ones onto these. So the first one, the projecting, the penpa, where in the first way was about waking up and that you will continue to serve other people. It's the same thing on your deathbed. You say, through this process, that you will not lose the wish to help other people, to serve other people in some way. So you're laying there, your family's hanging around, they're crying. Hopefully they're comforting you. Marina, that hiding doesn't take you off the screen. That was funny. That was great. Somebody spotlighted Marina and she was like, I'm not here. That was amazing. Thanks for the humor. So the first thing is like you determine that through the death process, you won't lose that wish to serve other people. All right. And then gompa, right? You get used to it. So then you get used to keep thinking that way. That you think about helping others as you reach the moment of death. And so what this means is that you're making the wish that when you start having the death process, which is painful, all right, even if it looks peaceful, it's a very painful process. And in fact, like just because the body's not moving doesn't mean it's not painful. And there's a series of kind of like hallucinations that you go through, very painful, and it's very, very difficult, right? Because you're losing yourself. The self is being lost. It's dissolving. Your body is dissolving. The winds in your body are dissolving. And so you're in a way, you're thinking about how that pain is, you're experiencing it for other people. You will be experiencing it for other people. Right. And so then as that's happening, it's kind of like, I'm doing this for others. And you prepare yourself to die, that you could be responsible for teaching people how not to die and how to get to a Buddha realm. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. While it's very difficult, the death process can be a transition point into a Buddhahood, into your own personal Buddhahood. If you do it properly, you can see emptiness directly and then pop out. The chances of it are highly unlikely. Okay, very slim, but you can do it. But having all of these motivations in mind not only can project a different, better life for you, next life that is, they can purify some really intense bad seeds too. The third thing you do, the karpo sabon, the virtue seeds, is in your mind, give everything away that you ever owned. Don't hold on to anything. Like, don't be attached to your possessions or your body or what you used to be. Like, not only giving up those things, but giving up you. Right. So think about how all the people are going to use your bank account and your house and your car. Right. Think about how your body could be used, if you're open to it, like maybe your body could be used for medical purposes. You know, maybe your life could be used as an inspiration for other people. But everything you've done, everything you were or are, give it away. Don't be attached to any of it. It's going away. It's gone. You can't take it with you. If you hold on to it for too much, that's how people become hungry ghosts, right? Or, when that people talk about places being haunted, it's usually just being haunted by beings that are attached to a place. And it's not haunting, it's just they're in great need and it's painful for them. So give it all away. Fourthly is the destruction seed, the destruction power. Destroy the negative seeds in your mind. Confess every bad thing you ever done, all of the vows that you broke. Right. And believe that they're removed, like to have a clear conscience. Never saw that before. There's something in my notes that I never saw before. That's weird. They're in my notes, so give up everything that you've done negatively and know that it's gone. If you're trying to help somebody die, have them confess the things that they did. you know I've told you this story before where I did it with my grandfather. Like, he mentioned things that he did during World War II, and I said, well, would you do it again? And he was like, no. Purified. Right. You got him to commit to not doing it again. you know and then if you're a Diamond Way practitioner, you should retake your vows and purify everything through a final empowerment before you die, if possible. And then finally, the power of prayer. and pray that all the bad deeds, mental and physical suffering that come to me, that they all come into me and they die with me. That you dedicate your death to destroying other people's bad karma and pain. You see, so taking those 5 powers and then flipping them at the time of death. If you don't practice them while you're healthy, they will not arrive in your mind when you're dying. Okay. Because it's a scary, scary experience. You're losing. You've lost the battle. You're losing yourself. You're losing your family. You're losing your friends. They're losing you. Everything you have is going away. And you remember all of that. Okay, last thing here, then I have an announcement about something. So Geshe Chikawa, there's a story that at his death, okay, he yelled out, and thank you, AI, for such a great picture. Right? He's lying there on the bed and he's upset because all he wants to do is go to the lower realms to help other beings. And he's basically saying, I'm praying that I could go to the lowest hell for all this, for the sake of all living beings. He wants to go to the hell realms so he can purify that karma so other people don't need it. Right? And he's upset about it. And he's like saying, oh my God, it's not working. He's like, I'm trying to go there, but I can't. All I can see before me is the paradise of enlightenment. Okay. So this amazing practitioner, as he's being taken, as he's going off to paradise, his Buddha paradise, and it doesn't really work this way, but this is just an image. Okay. His Penjiki lays, his throwing karmas are throwing a paradise in front of him. And he's like, no, 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 I need to go to the hell realms. And he's pulling himself away. But his karma is forcing him to go to the better place. And the reason he's being forced to go to the better place is because all he wants to do is go to the lower place. All right. We still have things to talk about Geshe Chikawa. We'll continue that in the next class. I have a little announcement here that I want to talk about what's coming up in ACI. Let me get this up here. Here we are. Okay. Okay. So as many of you already know, we had a very successful first major 5 houses program in just like a month ago, like 3 weeks ago. And we had it was an amazing time where I was surprised by the participation that everyone brought to it, the excitement. We split everybody into their houses. I told everyone that their house was the best. They all believed me, right? And there was an excitement around it. And so what we would like to do is coming up on May 31st, we're having a follow-up event, a follow-up webinar where we're going to be clarifying some of the vision of the 5 houses. We're also going to be sharing what of the I'm sorry, Anastasia. I'm gonna have to do this again if you're trying to record this because now I got nervous and I'm doing a crappy job. They wanted me to create a promo video and I'm doing a crappy job. So I'll do it some other time. So I'm just gonna say what I want to say and then I'll record it later. So we're gonna be giving you that vision of what is the five houses and what are the missions of each of those houses. We started that process at the beginning of the retreat, and we would like to invite you to come to that. We're going to be providing some options, like what do we think the missions are? You're going to be voting on them. We're going to be giving you some additional content from each of those houses. And then what is it going to look like as we roll this out over the next year? Because we're going to be making a transition from ACI to five houses. What does that look like? We don't know yet. We're in process. But what we're finding is that the messaging of the five houses is much more accessible. That people are like, that they are finding new ways to access, I would call it the desire for deep change in themselves and in the world. And ACI as ACI 18 courses is not going away. Don't worry. I know you love them. I know it's very dear in your heart. You keep coming to classes. They're not going away. And we're going to be creating new content entry points for other people because these kind of classes are for a certain type of person. There's 89 people here. I'm so excited. I love all 89 of you, including myself, because I'm one of the 89. Okay. But there's so many people in the world who could benefit from this. There's so many people here who wouldn't be interested in an ACI course, but maybe they'd be interested in a parenting course. How to take care of yourself as a parent. And how to then change yourself and change your world. You see, how do we get there? And that's what we're going to be doing in the five houses. We're going to be creating new access points, new content, new types of courses so that we can reach new people. And as bodhisattvas, that's what we need to do. We have to figure out how to reach new people. The 18 courses are interesting. Don't get me wrong. I love them and I will keep teaching them and I will keep studying them and I'll keep offering them and the additional advanced courses when we get there. But how do we give people the tools to make their life better now? And maybe they might go into the deeper courses later, or we could create content and ways for them to make those transformations without all the Buddhist language, you see. So this is coming up on May 31st. I think it's at 6 a.m. It's just an hour. It's not a big deal. But if you're interested in learning more about it and how to become involved, because we need help. There's no way that we can do this the way we're currently running the organizations. It's expanding very, very quickly. And so we need help. We need volunteers. We need fundraising. And if we can get more courses in play, then we can start making some more money. Get it? Because Buddhist courses are meant to be free and they're always going to be free. And I will always teach these kind of courses for free. We do appreciate your generous contributions that you make, but it's never required. And some of these other content courses we're going to be creating can be revenue generating activities. So it can become more of a kind of a career path for people. You know, to be an ACI teacher, you have to figure out how to make your own money. Sorry. And it's beautiful. And we will be trying to find ways to create revenue generation opportunities for teachers as well as for the organization. So then we can support the massive growth that we're anticipating. So that's what that webinar is going to be about in 15 days. So So if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in how that content will be developed, what the houses are going to look like, there's also going to be a announcement for a competition. Whoever can send us the best items and content for each of the houses, we're going to vote on those at some point, and we're going to be giving away some tickets to the Mexico event in July. So if you have the money to come to that event and you win the prize, you can give it to someone else, because that's what a good Lojong practitioner does anyway. How do you ensure that you get to go to a program? Give it away. All right, cool. So that's Anastasia. I think I said enough. I think you can cut those pieces together and work your magic. All right. Thank you all for joining. That was class 6, but we're in class 5. I don't know where we are. We'll just keep going. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for wanting to be here. I appreciate all the interpreters and everyone who records and all the hosts. So let's take a little break. We'll be back in about a half hour with some Lamrim translation. So say goodbye to each other and have a wonderful day.
Yay, thank you so
you,
much.
teacher.
That was
Please
awesome
stay.
class.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so,
Gracias,
so
maestro
much.
Tim.
It's
Feliz día a
great.
todos. Bye bye to
Dankeschön.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Tschüss.
you. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Gracias.
Gracias. Muchas felicidades, maestros.
Всем хорошего дня.